Well, good evening and welcome back to another episode of the Chad Smith Podcast. My name is Chad Smith. Tonight we're going to be covering the 1994 Michigan UFO incident, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host from Michigan, Mr. Big Willie. What's up, Willie?
What's happening, brother?
How's it going?
Came in and started throwing stuff up.
You came
I was
in
like,
hot. Yeah.
throwing facts at you. Coming in fast with those facts.
Yeah, dude. So how's your weekend been going?
Busy. We had my niece's 7th birthday. Was bowling. And I was like, we're going to need those bumpers for the kids, obviously.
I remember those days.
And he was like, okay, no problem. And I was like, if you got like the ramp that I can push it down, I mean, for the kids, mainly.
Oh, yeah.
If you can bring that over. And it was like this dinosaur-looking one. It was like a Triceratops.
Oh,
It
sweet.
was like all plastic, made like an old sled.
It's
Looked like
themed.
that sled had been around since like the 1980s kind of plastic. You know, it had the 70s.
Mhm.
It had that distinct 1970s look to it.
The plastic that there ain't no way it's biodegradable. It's not going
Not a chance.
nowhere.
Not even close. But yeah, we're here. It's another Sunday. We're sharing more mysterious Michigan facts for you. Coming at you.
Coming at you live from Michigan.
Coming at you live.
And we do have some people late at night in the chat. What's
Oh
up,
my
guys?
gosh.
Got
People already in the
Cassie.
chat?
Forensic Mystics. What's up, Cass?
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, these are fun.
I do enjoy doing these. And next week, by the way, guys, we're going to be covering the horrible hag of Detroit. This is one that I've covered before on a different show, but it is well worth sharing again. And I think anybody, get you some of that hitta, some of that sippa.
Second
Gotta
time
swallow
making coffee
twice
for the
to
day.
get it down.
Oh, yeah. It's like syrup coming out of there.
That's right. But yeah, we'll be covering the horrible hag next week. So it is a Detroit story-based story, obviously, from Michigan. However, is it going to have as many facts as tonight or some of the other stuff we've shared? I don't know. That's left to be seen as I crack my beer. Let us see what happens. And that's why you're going to have to come back to see what the horrible hag is all about. And Chad, I didn't realize this. Next Sunday will fall on, this is the last show of Mysterious Michigan for this year, right? We'll be in
This is it.
2023 next time.
That's right. Cheers.
Cheers to that. 2023. Man, what a trip 2022 has been. Fast and wild.
It seems like most of it's been fast, but I don't know. The podcast side of stuff feels like it's been a long time because
Well,
I
that's
didn't know
true.
anybody in this community like a little over a year ago. So it
Very
feels
true.
like we've known each other forever, and it's only been a year, but it's awesome.
What's up, Jeanette Sanchez, Akashi Chris, some others coming in, Forensic Mystics,
Gosh, you Chris, Jeanette Sanchez.
The Journals of Awakening. Now that just seems like something you'd read late at night, alone by the candlelight. What kind of
Ben.
awakenings do you have going on over there?
Oh,
Who
dude,
is it?
He's got that's Ben. He's got a new. Well, it's not new. I think he's hitting 100 days where he's doing like a daily, morning blog.
Wait, Ben? Our Ben?
No, this has already happened once today.
I was like, when did this
Jamie
happen?
was like, "Our Ben, like Ben Ben." I'm like, "No, this is different Ben."
Okay.
Different
Well,
Ben.
congratulations.
Sorry, dude.
to you,
Yeah, I
Ben.
tried. Cassie says hi, Ben.
How would you say it? Hi, not our Ben. Other
exactly.
Ben.
That's right. Chris says this is the best beard
Aw.
and voice convo.
Well, thanks, Akashi Chris. As we always say, she has the best smile in all of ufology, right? Big smiles all around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Jake Smith, meat and taters, Ben? No, not meat and taters, Ben. Papa
No.
Willie, what is shaking, brother?
Papa
Rainy
Willie's in here from
Carpenter,
Facebook. What's up, dude?
welcome. I think Rainy's a new one, right? I don't think I've ever seen a Rainy in here before.
I don't think so either. Rainy
Well,
Carpenter.
welcome. We're going to talk about some mysterious stuff in Michigan. Matter of fact, I might be going on a little bit of a limb here saying an invasion. That's too much, but I'm going to use that little hot word tonight. But at very least it's a big flap. It's a big flap of an event that, for me, I love UFO stuff. Is a ton of the stories that we hear about overindulged and fabricated, perhaps, parts of it? Sure. But if we stick to the facts of the story and we don't get hung up on people, coming in late and adding their parts that we later are disproven, and we just stick with the original pieces of the case, we a lot of times find that it's very hard to disprove one way or the other. And in this case, I'd have to say, Chad, to me, if you just stick with a couple facts we're going to focus on, and we're going to do that tonight, we're going to take the journey together. I don't know how you can look at this case and not say that it wasn't aliens. I'm already throwing my opinion out there early, but I'm not saying it was aliens, but
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. That's the conclusion I came to. For the year 66, yeah. Right? No, 94. Right. We're talking 94. About a different case, but
yeah,
Michigan did have a 66 case.
We did. If you haven't seen that, you can go check out that case as well. Looks like Sarah, must be on Facebook, because I see Stay Based. So
Stay Based.
I'm going to say it's Facebook right now. Yeah, and for some reason, if you are new to the channel, welcome. And if you have not come over and subscribed to the YouTube part of it for the Chad Smith Podcast, please do so. Or you can hang out as well on Facebook, right? You can watch that way, but I'd have to say a lot more people hanging out usually, generally speaking, in the YouTube side of things. So
you can even watch on Twitch. We're live on Twitch and Twitter right now. So thanks.
That's true. That is true. I forgot about that. But yeah, what else can I think of? Is there anything we should announce? Any other things that are going on before we jump into the show tonight? I know we got the Golden Probe Awards coming up next Friday. I'm excited for the ladies over there at Totiwaba.
That's right. Yeah. That one time I was abducted by aliens will be putting on their second annual Golden Probes. Make sure you're subscribed to that over there. That's going to be...
They got some new shirts for it, too. Maybe limited time. I don't know.
New shirts. Probably going to be limited based off the stuff I've seen already.
Probably going to be a little limited. But yeah, so let's jump into this. So there's a couple things you can do if you'd like to watch this and stop it immediately. You can go watch the Netflix series, obviously, Unsolved Mysteries. It was on there, season 3. I don't remember the episode number was, but it's on there. Number 2? Okay, I wasn't sure.
I believe.
Okay. And you can go check that out if you want. Now, this is how a lot of people in this particular story has come up to popularity as of late, because they're like, oh yeah, Unsolved Mysteries. For me, I was into this thing and wanted to cover back when my brother and I still had a podcast. I was like, this story's wild. And I felt it was not getting the attention it deserved for the amount of evidence that I felt was there. So I am really excited. This is actually the first time I've ever even attempted to talk about it. And we're better to do it than with Chad Smith, right?
That's right.
So, Chad, what do we have going on? As we always like to start out, what do we have going on in 94? You want to pull up some facts and have it take a peek at that?
Yeah, man. Let's see. Pull this up. All right. So back in 94, Big Willie.
94.
90s slang. Da bomb. Where did that go? Da bomb.
I don't know.
That is da bomb. Alrighty. No,
I think it's ait.
Oh, ait.
A-I-T. A-I-I-I-T. That meant all right, okay.
Right on. U.S. President was Bill Clinton. Your average income per year was $37,000. Yeah, doing pretty good at 37. I know we just hit 8 billion people, so if you want to think back to 94, the world population then was 5.6 billion. So we're talking, people have been having some fun the last few years. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Some songs from the radio, Boys to Men,
yeah.
I'll Make Love to You. All right. Some Celine Dion, The Power of Love, Ace of Base, All That She Wants.
Well, they're on there twice.
Man, Ace of Base was killing it in 94, man. That's when they made all their cash.
I don't know any of Ace of Base, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie.
I think we couldn't play it on here, but I
feel like if we heard it, I'd probably be like, oh, that song. Okay. Mariah Carey, Hero. Oh, man. Ace of Base on there again.
Dude,
what was going on in 94, baby?
I don't know.
Wow.
If you've been watching the last couple of podcasts, I've been getting some hate on my plaid hat that I've been wearing, and I see that in style in 94 plaid flannel shirts. Yeah, baby. I'm just trying to bring it back. That's all I'm doing.
Ripped jeans, denim on denim. I didn't say that. It's just denim overall.
Guess jeans.
Oh my God, Talk to the Hand. I don't want to hear about it. Was a popular thing at the time too. That's interesting.
Talk to the hand.
Gallon of gas, $1.11.
Oof. 111.
A brand new home, $154,500. My goodness.
Oh, not anymore.
ER and Friends, Frasier, The Simpsons, Seinfeld, and Roseanne were all on television at that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
So even though things were, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chad.
I was just going to say Steven Spielberg wins his first directing Oscar for Schindler's List.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's all I was going to say.
Well, I was going to say, and in theaters, Pulp Fiction, The Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, Dumb and Dumber, Lion King, a lot of things going on in the world at the time. But even though we were kind of, I would say that was the last decade of, I want to word this carefully. The internet had not taken over yet. And I think that the 90s was the last decade where you could not maybe be on the internet and still be in the know of what was going on. Because since then, if you're not on the internet at all, you still be very knowledgeable, but you might not be up to date as quickly as everybody else. Or you gotta certainly find a way. I would think it's almost impossible, because even the news sources and those that are presenting the news and trying to get it to you, if they're not on the internet, then they're hurting themselves. So it's very hard, I would say. 90s, if I had to sort of, I think the 90s was probably the last decade that, hey, we didn't have to, that was the last thing on there. So, but yeah, that was kind of.
I can't believe how many people, how many more people we have on the planet now, from 5.6 billion to 8.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay.
A little bit.
Doris was married and living in Detroit in 94.
Really?
Yeah, everybody in
Chad,
the chat room.
how old were you in 94?
You're making me do math. I was 5.
Whoops, I hit the wrong button. I know what I'm
left
doing.
Me for a minute.
All right, well, I'm out of here. So I think, 94? So I was 3, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I was 5.
Yeah, 3.
Just going into kindergarten.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Kindergarten.
So we were youngsters.
I'll tell you one thing I didn't hear about was this event at all. At least I don't feel like I did. Let me see. I'm going to pull this back up for a second here. Drop this for a second. Okay. Which at the time, Chad, if you want, I guess we can bring up yours, is obviously the 1994 Michigan UFO sighting, right? And some of you might be asking, well, what was this? Have we heard about this before? Maybe some of you have heard about it. And if you haven't, please enjoy tonight's show and let us know what you think, because I think it's some fascinating things that are going on. So, Chad, why don't, well, I guess it's up to you. Do you want to read a little bit? You got a little bit of a slideshow here. We can share some of that, and then I'll kind of jump into the story if you want a little bit. So if you want to go to the next slide, I guess.
I just wanted to, before I said anything, or before we got into it, this picture is I made this with the orbs in there. So this is,
oh, yes.
It looks pretty real now that I am looking at it here.
It's pretty accurate to some of what was going on.
Yeah, I don't want people to think that's a real picture, but it's a real picture. This is a real picture of the time period, but I put those orbs in there. But that is what it kind of looked like. So we'll go into the next slide here. So, which one are you reading from, by the way?
I will be reading from, the one that's technically has more history to it would be ATI.
Okay, I see that
because that one has a lot more information, in my opinion. So we're going to go that route. And that's the weird thing about this case, just like the 1966 case, guys. You have this massive event, and yet you would think there'd be more out there, and there seems to be a little lackluster at times for the amount of sightings. And as you can see on here, the sightings consisted of that on that evening of March 8th, 1994. More than 300 calls flooded into 911 dispatch to report strange lights in the sky. In the night sky along the eastern shore of Lake Michigan. I don't know what the next one is, but if you want, I'll jump into the article a little bit and then share if you'd like the slideshow.
Yeah, the next one's going to go into the first-hand encounter.
Okay, so yeah, maybe we'll hold off for just a hot second here, and then we'll bring that one up. So obviously this is from ATI, the article that I'm reading off of, and I'll make sure I drop a link to that in here before everything is all said and done. So this is the enduring mystery of the 1994 Lake Michigan UFO incident by Austin Harvey, and it was checked by John Kurowski. That's a cool last name.
Checked.
Okay. On March 8th, 1994, hundreds of people called 911 to report eerie lights above Lake Michigan. But their true origin remains unknown to this day. Or does it? I don't know about that. On March 8, 1994, residents living along the shore of Lake Michigan witnessed one of the most widespread UFO sightings in history. Bright, multicolored orbs appeared over the water and could be seen as far south as the Indiana state line, dancing erratically across the night sky. Local police were overwhelmed with people calling in to report the flying objects. In total, dispatchers received over 300 calls from concerned citizens. The National Weather Service, or NWS, later confirmed the presence of large objects in the sky over the lake. Objects they were certain were not planes. And we're going to go into some of that. But that's to encapsulate just a little bit kind of what was going on. And then obviously it says they were gone, vanished without a trace. So
they were definitely not planes.
No.
We'll get into the radar because I do have that page pulled up with all the 9 different slides. But.
And I wouldn't mind. I don't know how we're going to exactly do this, guys, because I'm going to make sure, Chad, you have the link. We'll make sure there's a link in this show notes. So if you're playing this back, that has a link to the audio clip, because in total, there's an audio clip that's like 23 minutes long. I don't know if we're going to play all that for you guys tonight, but I would like to play, since we said they were getting all these phone calls. I want to say, Chad, the officer said they received 60 phone calls in the first hour, which means every single minute they were receiving a phone call in regards to these lights. Now, obviously, we don't have all the audio to that, but I do have some of the audio, and I thought it would be cool to just play at least a couple of the first phone calls up until maybe we get to Jack.
For sure.
And see what you guys think. So again, guys, this was 1994. Listen, I did the best. I tried to go for this audio twice, and it's going to sound awful to you guys, but you should have heard it before. So I apologize in advance, but
yeah, I was going to say, too, I listened to the one that was actually aired on Netflix, and even that one sounded kind of bad, too. So it's just, there's only so much you can do with 1994 phone call audio.
That is very true. So let me pull this up and we'll play. Oops. There we go. And this should share. Man, this is going to be interesting, Chad. I've never done this before. We're going to try this audio. We're doing a little different here, so let's see what happens. Okay, guys? Chad, let me know if you can hear the audio when I start, okay? Can you hear a little bit back there or no?
Yes.
8/3/8/94, the time 21:30 hours. Also recorded will be a dispatch conversation with the National Weather Service personnel.
Does that make it louder for you, Chad, or no?
Yeah, it sounds good, actually.
We were just wondering, have you heard anything about these lights that are flickering up here in the, the east-southeast area? It's like a group. It looks like a string of Christmas lights that's way up in the sky. And we wondered if you had heard anything about it. Not a thing. Wow, you might not have somebody take a look. It's different. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know. It's strange. But it's right out east-southeast. It's way up. And it's just like a circle of a lot of different lights flickering. And it's different than any airplane.
Okay, your address, please?
Well, we're at 354 Country Club Road.
Okay, and let's see, what direction is it?
It's, looking out the front of our house. It's, what direction did you say that was? East-southeast. And that's when you're coming down 16th Street, right to Country Club Road. If you look to your immediate, just to your lower right, they're right there in the sky. This is something we've never seen before.
Can't miss them.
I'll have somebody check it out.
All right.
Thanks. Bye. 911?
Yeah, is this the police?
We do the dispatching phone service.
Okay, I don't know if you guys do anything on UFOs at all. I got real...
It's crazy that audio dropped there. I wish you could hear what it was.
Isn't that interesting how it dropped right there? I was like, where did this part of the tape go?
Hold on. Oh, excuse me? Okay, what do you have made like it was a circular motion, and it started going up and down, and then it went to 2 lights, it did the same thing, and now it's 1, and just spin in a circle.
I
What's your name? My name is Troy Prince. Troy Prince? Yeah. And you're at 419 Stratford Way, apartment 7? Yes, I am. Okay, well, have somebody stop by and see you.
Okie dokie then.
Thank you. 911. You guys busy? A little bit. I can call that. It's not a really emergency. We just called about the UFOs, we thought. Mm-hmm. They're out there. They ain't airplanes. Yeah, we've got a car on the way over there. Let's see, right now. We've got a couple other calls.
Oh, they're out there.
Oh, they see them too? Mm-hmm. Where are they now? I mean, they're just kind of hanging there. They came up as a group and then they kind of split. I bet it's some kind of hot air balloon or helium balloon with lights on them. Okay. They ain't airplanes. Yeah, we've got a car on the way. He was coming from the downtown area, so they're kind of hanging in the general area. It's like maybe the wind might have broken them apart like they would be balloons, maybe. I don't know. Okay, so we got a call from Stratford Way, and that's where he's heading first, and he's going to head over to yours. Okay, yeah, they're dead south of us now. South of you? Yeah, we're on 16th Country Club. Okay. All right, thanks. All right, thank you. Yeah, bye.
Alrighty.
Central Dispatch?
Okay, so there's one we're going to share here. But before we do that, I guess we can kind of cover some of the other slides you have, Chad, if you'd like, just far as the photos, because it's going to go into one of the ladies and what she was dealing with. And she actually, as you guys will hear in a second, felt embarrassed to even call, even though what she was witnessing was pretty amazing. And luckily, her kids kind of talked her into it. I think, let me see if that's right. I'm not sure if that's the one, Chad, if that one goes too far in it, but I think we can share that slide, right?
Okay, yeah.
So
She's one of the first ladies to talk on the
yes,
Netflix series.
which I thought would be worth sharing this because this is her phone call that's getting ready to come up that we can play in the audio. So add this one up here. So obviously, this is some of what she talked about.
It's Cindy, not Cinty. That's a typo.
It's okay. That's okay. It could be Cinty. If I ever, I guess, have another daughter, should I name him Cinty?
Spelled it wrong.
Be
Yeah,
like
maybe.
it's spelt Cinty, but it's enunciated Cindy. So just don't be confused and get it right. But yeah, Chad, what was going on with Cindy here? What was she seeing?
Well, what she saw was what he just described was they looked like Christmas lights. They think that they saw something like a string of lights, which I was thinking while that phone call was playing. Back in '94, it's not like we had like the LED super efficient bulbs. So they would have been incandescent bulbs if they were Christmas lights, and they would have been, I don't know what kind of bulbs or battery powered you'd have to use, but everything back then would have been a lot heavier. And I didn't think about that until that phone call was going off, but whatever was up there, with them being as bright as they were, they'd had to have been really big incandescent bulbs with some type of like very heavy battery source. So...
And she was also on the phone at this point in time. She was on the phone with her best friend. This is why she said the famous words, I got UFOs in my backyard. I mean, when she seen this coming in, she said at first she thought it was the full moon. It's kind of how it caught her attention. And then realized, well, there's 3 of these things, so there's no way that this is just that.
It's not the full moon.
It's not a full moon. And that's where she was talking to her friend. But one unique characteristic about that was how she mentioned how her horse, because she had a horse there, didn't seem to really be disturbed. And a lot of other accounts we hear, well, I guess it doesn't. Yeah, I guess maybe when people get taken, if we hear the actual invasion, or I shouldn't say invasion, but the actual, being abducted cases, sometimes people don't even react that are right in the same room. So I guess maybe it's not that strange. But the horse was like super chill. There was nothing going on with it. But yeah, I just thought it was worth, bringing up. Obviously, made these slides look really good. Nobody knows this, but Chad threw these together like 5 seconds ago. He was like, I got this.
These ones were put together a couple hours before, but the ones at the end were like right at the last second.
Okay.
But yeah, this is Cindy Pravda, not Cinty. She was one of the hundreds of people who saw the collection of 5 or 6 glowing orbs above Lake Michigan. And more than 2 decades after the event, she still remembers it clearly. And she says, Hey, where I'm facing them, the one on the far left moved off. It moved to the highway and then came back in the same position. The one on the right was gone in the blink of an eye, and then eventually everything disappeared quickly. So from what I understand, they were all together. The left one kind of like moved away and was flirting with over here, and then it came back. And then the one on the far right just like disappeared, and then they all disappeared after that.
Yeah. And this was just like kind of a little bit of a rendition of what she was, kind of going through or seeing, I guess you could say, that they did up on the show. Obviously, was the light coming through. But she said it was that blinding that she couldn't really, at the time, when it was that close, make out any distinct look to the craft because it was just so darn bright, which I thought was really interesting. And I actually misspoke, guys. The one that was on the phone that we're about to hear from, I'm going to play the audio from, was this lady right here. I did get that wrong. I told you guys, excuse me, I told you somebody else was talking on the phone, and it was not them. Okay. So I wouldn't mind playing her audio in just a second if you guys want, and we'll get that squared away here real quick for you, Chad. So let me pull this back up. See, this kind of stinks the way I did it, because every time I go to I got to drop this out. But that's okay.
That's kind of Streamyard's fault. I wish we could share multiple.
Yeah, if they would allow. Even at what we need to do is set up a third one in. That's what I used to do. We'll talk about this afterwards. I don't know what I'm talking about while we're doing the show. But what we're going to do here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The lady's face we just showed will be the audio we're about to hear and what went on with her. So here we go.
Yeah, this is a non-emergency, so feel free to cut me off if something comes in. And I feel kind of silly calling, but my son insisted that I call. Is there any Air Force airplanes or helicopters flying around in Allegan or Ottawa County tonight?
Well, we've had reports out Stratford Way in that area of life, and they're checking it out.
Stratford Way? Yep. Now, where would that be? We're right on Ottagon on the county line.
Yeah, it's down in that area.
It is?
Holland City.
Pardon?
Right down, it's by Holland City.
Okay, because he saw them heading southeast of the county line of Ottawa and Allegan, probably right on the Kent County line, I would imagine.
Okay, yeah, we've got them checking it out. They say it's something to do with radio towers down in the area.
It has something to do with what?
Radio towers down in the area.
They were in the air. Why don't you tell him what you saw?
He just wants to get off the phone.
I was at a real high hill, right on the county line there. And it was like at a 45-degree angle to the ground. There was like probably 4 or 5 lights, and they were all flashing right in a row from the top all the way down to the bottom. And it was sitting there for a while, and then it leveled off, and then it moved southeast. It was up in the air quite a bit.
Okay, yeah, we got an officer down the area checking on it right now.
Okay.
Okay.
It took off real fast.
Okay, yeah, we'll let them know.
All right, thank you.
Okay, then.
Bye.
Okay, dear guy. All right, let me pull this off. So, before we play that, but yeah, so even though they were getting the calls, you kind of hear, I wouldn't say the disdain, but the not
okay,
maybe.
Then you got lights in the sky too. Then do ya?
Sure you do. And this was in Muskegon and obviously Benton Harbor areas and all that, where this was taking place. But I don't have a great photo of it, but this is just a little bit of a replica of, this is not great at all. It really got, I don't know what happened to that photo. It looked a lot better before. But this was a rough idea of the one that they were specifically seeing. Chad, do you have a better one there maybe?
I just put this in the slide, these two together.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, this would be perfect because that's exactly what I was going to bring up. Which was that obviously, at the time, like I said, they were dispatching officers to these scenes. So it's not like they were entirely ignoring them. Matter of fact,
Enzo's comments keep getting me laughing, man. He says, "That's nice, sir, but I got a whole phone bank of other wackos to get to." That's real good there, sir.
Good. That's what was going on. However, they did send out Michigan police officer Jeff Velthouse. I think it's Velthouse. And he responded to the 911 call, obviously there, to the one we were just talking about for Holly Graves. So that is what they witnessed actually together. And he got to see the craft kind of break apart at first there, because her husband, I think Daryl, was still in the front yard. Good old Daryl. He was in the front yard, and he was watching this thing. It had moved on a little bit from it, because when her and her kids seen this, I mean, it was like the entire house was illuminated. But the officer did watch it kind of break into three, from one craft being solid like that on the right, broke into three pieces, and then he watched one just go real quick off, and then another one real quick off, and then that one kind of slowly. I know, right? It's pretty amazing. Jake. My name is Jeff.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Jeff. And a matter of fact, though, Jeff, let's give Jeff some props. He chased this thing, or he tried to chase this light for a while. And I'm going to read just a little bit more, kind of some of what we had going on, and then we're going to jump into. So, obviously, we had Cindy who talked about, I got UFOs in my backyard, and that was in Grand Haven. But according to the Detroit Free Press, Pravada was one of the hundreds of people, again, that would be Miss Cindy there, Pravada, hundreds of people who saw the collection of 5 or 6 glowing orbs above Lake Michigan. More than 2 decades after the event, she still remembered it clearly. And then, quote, again, this is, I won't read back what Chad already put in there for us, how she's seen him taken off quickly. But then we moved into... it wasn't only the residents of Grand Haven who saw the lights either. Similar accounts were given by people in Holland, 22 miles away. Among the Holland witnesses were Daryl and Holly Graves and their son, Joey, which are the ones we're discussing right now. She said, quote, I saw 6 lights out the window above the barn across the street. Joey said, quote, I got up and went to the sofa and looked up at the sky. They were red and white and moving, unquote. So then from there, sightings were reported from Ludington, Michigan, all the way down to Indiana state line, 200 miles away. Calls were coming in not only to the police, but also to the Michigan chapter of the Mutual UFO Network, known as MUFON, a voluntary nonprofit founded in 1969 that claims to be, quote, the world's oldest and largest civilian UFO investigation and research organization, period, unquote. While it is certainly strange for such a large number of people to report the same phenomenon, perhaps the most compelling evidence regarding the Lake Michigan UFO event came from the observation of a radar operator for the National Weather Service. So the mysterious objects caught on radar over Lake Michigan. One Holland police officer, Jeff Veldhuis, who's the gentleman depicted in the picture they're chasing, heard statements from numerous witnesses, all of whom described exactly what Pravada and Graves' family saw. Bright flashing orbs moving in seemingly random directions. And we're not going to go into 1 year. So, okay. According to the debrief, after seeing the lights for himself, Veldhuis called a meteorologist named Jack Bushong, who was stationed at the NWS office in Muskegon County. Their conversation was published a year after the event, and it has been made publicly available by MUFON in the years since, along with numerous calls from witnesses. And I guess at this point, instead of me trying to read it to you guys, we have the audio. If you guys are not opposed to it, and maybe you're someone who's just hearing this for the first time, I mean, maybe we just kind of let it play. I don't know how you feel about that, Chad. We should have talked about it before, but it's going to be about 15. It's going to be about 15 minutes of audio, guys. But if you're okay with hearing it, it's a little bit of audio.
It's a long time.
So maybe we'll kind of jump in there with the audio and talk about some things. Holland is Michigan's Bible Belt. We got the wooden shoes, and we cloggers, and we got to done.
Yeah, actually, Tommy G said earlier, he said, that's where my ex-girlfriend was at in Allegan. Allegan, I think it's called. She claims to have seen these things.
Very interesting.
She told me about the sightings in, I don't know if, I think he might to say 94, but maybe there were sightings in 97. And then again, a few weeks ago after watching the new show. So that's cool.
Yeah.
We have somebody in the chat that's linked to actually seeing them.
Correct. I don't know what happened, Chad. I apologize.
Uh-oh. What happened?
What happened? I'm going to figure it out in a minute.
With what audio?
Happened. No. The audio's fine, so we're going to start that. I was just going to share another picture while this was going on, but that's okay. But yeah, so Jack was obviously, he'd been working for about 3 years. He absolutely loved being a meteorologist. It's almost, I mean, if you've watched the show, obviously on Netflix, he talked about how he got into, started reading weather maps and stuff at like age 6. So Chad's going to take it now.
Chad heard 15 minutes. I'm going to go find a pillow.
We're not going to do the full 15 minutes, although, I'll be honest, when you start listening to it, you get so involved in what's being talked about that you're like, no way, and then time just moves along. But yeah, so let's go ahead, enough talking about it. Let's just play this audio and see what you guys think. So this was the officer who, now it said Jeff called. I don't think that was quite right. I believe the dispatch was talking to Jeff, and then that dispatch officer decided to then contact the National Weather Service, because at this point he's going, all right, it was enough that I was hearing citizens say whatever, but now I'm starting to get officers who are seeing this, so maybe something's going on, right? So props to them for that, and then let's just go ahead and listen to this audio here. All right, I do have to share it. I'll do that. We've done this before, guys. Here we go. Let's do this.
He's like, I got a different number. Let me call this other number.
He called right back there. He was like,
National Weather Service, this is Chad.
Weather Service, Muskegon. Hi, Muskegon. This is Ottawa County 911 calling. Yeah, how you doing? Good. You guys have access to a radar there, don't you? Yes, we do. You do.
Go on, Chad.
You getting anything weird down in the southern Ottawa County area? Anything weird? Hold on for a second, okay? 84th and Garfield? Out of Chicago.
Chicago.
Track radar.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing more than the usual ground clear we get right there. Let me get on closer range. Okay, the reason I ask is we're getting a whole bunch of calls of some strange lights in the southern Ottawa, northern Allegan County, right near Holland City area. Strange light? Yeah. Such as we've had about 60 UFO calls. Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez. UFOs, huh?
Something more to this. Yeah. Well, I have to call a UFO reporting center then about this. This is just, we've had a couple of them, and we got an officer out there right now, and he says the only thing he sees right now is the tower. What they had done is replace their lights. They were on steady before, now they're on an alternating blinking pattern. That's what he's writing it off to, but a couple of our people, or the citizens, are saying, well, yeah, but they seem to be moving. Well, are you standing in the same spot you were before? No. Well, that would make a move to me, I mean, standing on one side of your house, you go to the other, yeah, they're going to be in a different location. So I was just kind of curious if you noticed anything, or anything on there at all. I'm looking at it in the vertical now, and I'm not really, let's see, wait a minute, there's something right there.
Okay. So let's
see what that is.
So let me do this. So I would like to actually, if you wouldn't mind, Chad, I sent you that link there. So whenever you get a chance, you can pull that up. We'll show. So this was the first bit that he was kind of getting. He was seeing this one large mass. But let's talk a little bit how radar works, Chad. And I don't know if you know or want me to kind of say it or however, because clearly I'm an expert in radio, bro.
Oh, you go right ahead and you explain that radio.
Radio talk there. So you can see, if I don't know if we can zoom in there, Zad, but Chad, Zad. Wow, what if your parents had named you Zad? So anyways, Chad. He's centered right there in Muskegon. So that's the centerpiece, and then obviously it makes a spiral, and it's just trying to get a return. It's just trying to get a signal. It's basically the same without being sonar. It's kind of like that. The bats use, they're getting a ping off of things. Specifically, and I don't know the science behind it, but it needs, metallic things that have a more dense feel to them. These are the things that are going to give a reading. They give a specific reading. And it might be a little hard to see, but Chad, if you kind of you can see where they have it circled there. I don't know if your screen can zoom in or not, but this is the first kind of return that he starts getting to And obviously, Chad, it gives you a little bit of information on the left side. I know. See, that's so silly that it does that. But you can read a little bit as we're moving along.
Trash.
Yeah.
So this is. Oh, I'm sorry. It just says hand drawn by Jack Bushong. Days after the sighting, it represents the movements of the flying objects on March 8th. Huh.
Yeah. Now the reason, and we'll get into that,
90.
why it was hand drawn. Yeah, that's wrong. Ignore that. They didn't know what they were talking about. But this was the first reading you get. So, Chad, I'm going to keep playing some audio, and I think it's not right away, but there'll be some that come up that will start to play there. I don't know if it's going to let us do this with both, but we're going to try it. Here it might probably kick that one for a second.
Yep.
And we'll kick that audio back on. So here we go. So he's finally starting to think he sees something here.
There's a larger turn down there. Let's see. That looks like it's up about maybe. Well, it disappeared, but it was up about 6,000 feet in about. Could have been a plane. I don't know, but it was pretty big. Wait a minute. See what that was.
Yeah, we're getting a bunch of weird ones down here, and like I see now it's starting to appears to be moving a little bit south.
And I'm so sorry to interrupt, guys. One last thing I'll put out there really quickly is that obviously that radar is circling. So right now he's getting, it's not like it's a constant just looking at it. It's making an entire sweep, right? And he's going, oh, yep, okay, I'm getting it. It's in the same position. So if he seems a little confused as we're going along here about why he can't quite pinpoint it, it's because it's making that sweep every time. And he does eventually, as you'll hear, switch over to a manual mode. But I forgot, that's what we were going to explain about how radars kind of do a full sweep. They aren't just sitting there like focusing on something. But I do like you can hear the phones for the dispatcher still just like ringing away.
I know, they're going crazy there.
Just ringing away.
There's no call waiting going on.
Not at all.
Yeah, okay, or move. Let's see. Yeah, there's something big down there. Wait a minute, that's really strange. I get it down at I'm getting it down around South Bend. No, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong graph. Let's see. Really strange. If I can find the right overlay, I can see exactly where I'm seeing it. Can't find it. Oh, shoot. It's moving. I can see it moving, and it's just moved about, well, let me get the range stroke. Let's see.
Definitely not the fastest technology in the world.
No.
Maybe at the time it was. Hey, Molly.
It looks like it's around 82 kilometers from me. That puts it down about, right down at the, right down near South Haven. Okay, this would be north of this. And, right at the Allegan-Ottawa County line. Okay, now I lost it. Yeah, oh, there it goes. Okay, it's moving. It's moving towards the, west-southwest. And it looks like a big blob. Yeah, that's the way it was explained to us. And it's not, I think it's almost off the scope. Let me go to another. This is weird. Let me go to another, let's see. It looks like it's fizzled out. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, it was up about 6,000 feet or so. And unless that was a really seeing it, okay. And I can't. It disappears. It's moving because one pass is here, the next pass is gone. Yeah. Well, I got it on manual now. I'm just kind of I'm continuously radiating on it, and looks like it's steady right now.
Let's go on the manual.
Sometimes you just got to get manual with it. That's all it is, John.
Did he say he's got 3 of them right now, or no? It's still just the one?
Just the one blob.
I'm getting it now at about 12,000 feet.
So it's going up 6,000 feet.
And it's a pretty strong return.
Oh,
But yeah, I've
That'd be
never
me.
seen. Now I'm getting multiple returns.
See?
One of the people that called that I had happened to talk to said it looked like a bunch of cylindrical objects.
Well, oh my God, what is that?
They were going together and coming apart.
Yeah, there's 3, and they're lengthwise. Now I'm getting 3 of them,
okay. You want to pause it there?
and
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, because this is worth sharing. So this is kind of what he was getting. I'm so sorry, Chad. I was trying to do it for you.
We had the same idea.
So yeah, he's getting this, and they're this far apart. That's why it was
how
so
big they are.
shocking. Yes, that's another thing worth noting. I mean, and again, if you've seen this series, and anybody who's ever studied this particular case at all knows that he talked about planes showing up as literally pinpoints, like off of a needle pinpoint. And he's at the size of half a thumbnail, which means they are really big. I mean, we can see Chicago to the left there. I mean, that's the city of Chicago. All that dense darkness over there to the left, bottom left corner. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, this thing's like the size of a whole town. One of these is the size of a whole town.
Yeah.
So,
And that's why people were not really confused. I mean, some people might have seemed a little confused. But you could probably share another slide if you want, Chad, because this is kind of where he's starting to see while he's on the phone with the gentleman, starting to freak out. Is he seeing them all of a sudden start to go into this basically triangle kind of formation? Now, his drawing, and he later admitted this wasn't perfect to what he was seeing because they became a, what is that called, an equilateral triangle where everything's equal to each other. But this was the start of what he was starting to see is this thing move around, and I think in a second here he even mentions that he gets 4 of them, and he goes, okay, now it's back to 3. But this is what he was getting on his radar, and he's seeing them move so quickly in height differential as well as just shifting around. Chad, if I remember correctly, he said something like 72,000 miles an hour. Is that what the speed limit was? He said it had to have been to what it was doing.
I remember that part, yeah.
Which means this thing was able to, it would have, again, been able to go, I think he said from LA to New York in like 2 minutes.
Yep, 2 minutes.
Which is,
Impossible.
even now that we are aware of, impossible for the human body to withstand those kind of G-forces. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like the space station's slower than that. The space station's flying at 17,500 between that and 18,000. So you're talking 72,000.
Yeah. You know what, Chad? I was just thinking about this. I have an idea. I'm going to try. Just go ahead and talk for a second. I'm going to try something real quick, and I'm going to see if this will work. So I'm going to be able to play audio while we're showing the picture. But if you wouldn't mind, go back to that. I think it's the third. Is the third one the first time it breaks into the triangle? Is that correct?
Yep. Slide number 2 is where it's in the
Now,
3 straight.
The reason I'm bringing it up is I want to ask our listeners as well as you, Chad, if you were Jack in this situation, what would you do? What would you honestly be feeling, guys? I mean, be honest. I mean, what would you be feeling, Chad, for yourself?
I'd be feeling like I'm looking at something that only my eyes are seeing. Like that, there's somebody just pop in backstage.
It's no, I have it. It's me.
I was hoping
so
it
sorry.
wasn't Jamie.
Yeah.
Like, oh God. So anyway, yeah, what I'd be thinking is like, hey, I'm looking at something that I'm probably the only operator that's looking at this right now, and it's probably one of the most significant things that's happening in the whole country. So I would just be feeling overwhelmed that I'm looking at something that I'm privileged to watch and see, but I also might be kind of scared because it's like I might be looking at something that even the government doesn't know is happening.
Well, and just to add to that, he would, also say he started weighing his options right then. Like, I'm not going to be able to not report this, but at the same time, I don't want to report. I don't know that I want to be the guy who reports this is what's going on. And like I said, for me, I don't know. But I'm going to try, Chad. I think this might work to where we can keep sharing the audio.
Okay.
And I will be able to share the audio while you're sharing the photo. No guarantee, but we're going to give it the old college try here. So let's see how this works. I love that I decided to try and do it while we're live to see.
Hey, you never know. I mean, we got some pretty cool people in the chat. They won't mind if we just try it out real quick.
That is true.
Enzo brings up a good point. He says, this particular part of the story I have questions about. What if there were more than 3 on a narrow arc radar sweep? He could miss one leaving and another one coming in from another angle.
Very true. Let's see if we can lay it out like this. And then, Chad, you should be able to... Whoopsie daisies, guys. We know what we're doing. We got a lot going on now. Now, see if you can add yours back in there. I don't know. I don't think it's going to...
No.
I don't think it's going to
have more than one thing up.
Yeah, I was really hoping because I added the audio as another guest that it would allow as like a third guest sharing their thing. So nothing we can do about that one, unfortunately, guys. I apologize. But we'll jump back into the audio, so I'll start playing some of that for you guys over here. I'm going to add this one back up because that's actually one that hasn't. So here we go.
I'm getting a third one now, and they're separated by about, looks like about 5,000 feet in height, and about maybe,
An officer just sent me a message here. He says,
about maybe, they're separated by about 50 kilometers. And they're very strong returns. I'm getting a real they're spiking, so it's something pretty solid. Not precipitation or anything, especially up at that height.
yeah, an officer in Holland City just sent me a message. He says, can we identify anything further? He says it looks like 3 to 4 of them.
I'm seeing three, and they're separated by they look like a triangle on my scope. I'm looking one around down by let's see. I'm seeing one down near South Haven. I'm seeing another one over Lake Michigan about northwest of Benton Harbor, and another one over west of or east of Benton Harbor, which would be near looks like Decatur.
So I'm going to pause this real quick because we have a question in the chat, as well as I just want to address how amazing that is that we're, in this case, you're getting Jack, right? Bushong's tracking the mysterious objects on the National Weather Service radar system here, and you have an officer on scene going, this is what I'm visually seeing with my eyes. Then you have the radar operator seeing it. So if our big concern is credible witnesses, we have the national weather guy who doesn't know what anybody's seeing. He's just saying, here's what my radar is showing me. And then we have the gentleman who's on the ground, who our eyes can fool us, most certainly. No questions asked there. But you have him on the ground going, all right, here's what I'm seeing, but who knows if I'm really seeing this. But you have the radar confirming, no, you are indeed seeing whatever it is you're seeing. I believe Freaky Geek was asking if this was a pilot. This was not. This was actually Jash. I'm just mixing all the names tonight. This is the Zad and... But no, this was Jack on the on the phone with a dispatcher who was checking just to see, what's going on, because once he started having officers call back and go, yeah, we're seeing something. Yep. And this was the actual photo right here that he was specifically just referring to in the audio we were listening to. So that's just kind of what's going on at the time. These are progressing, and he's seen it doing the 4, right? Some people talked about it breaking into 6, but we heard the 3 and the 4 much more commonly than we did anything else. And it really started to progress out, obviously, over the lake. And then there is one spot left in the audio. Let me see how much we have left. We have, if you guys want, we only have about 4 minutes left, actually, Chad. We went through that really fast. I don't know how we got. See what I mean? It's
that
crazy.
Was fast, dude.
Okay, so if you guys don't mind, I'm going to play it just before we get to the last part, Chad, and then we'll jump back in. If you guys have any questions, please ask us, and we might have answers.
Maybe.
Maybe. All right, I'm going to add this one back in real quick. Excuse me. All right, here we go.
Three of those. They're very strong. Now I'm getting another one down in
That's when he was getting
Marion
4.
County. These are huge returns. I've never seen anything like this. Not even when I'm doing storms. These aren't storms. They're just popping up all over the place.
This is strange, yeah, because the officer says it's green and red lights. It does not look like an airplane. They come together and then they separate and they just keep doing this all the time.
And you're seeing that? Yeah, I'm seeing 3 returns. They've moved positions now. South Haven looks like shed more light. South Haven. Okay, that one over by South Haven just zoomed over to the northwest by about, now they changed position again. One about 20 miles west of South Haven.
So just really quickly, so that's why, like, as Chad's, if you have something to share, Chad, go ahead and go for it. But those photos, when Chad was showing you, like, how quickly this is how fast it was happening for him. Mm-hmm. It's not like he just drew this to be like, oh, yeah, I think they went this direction. No, this was like overlay of what he experienced, where they're just like, boom, boom. And then obviously, Chad, you have that depiction there in the bottom right of kind of what it looked like, but that people were seeing. So he's getting the radar, and then you're getting these big, bright lights that were out there. But I love, did it sound like there was a telegram?
Yeah, it sounds like every piece of technology that we have access to on the planet, he's using. He's using everything that's ever been invented. He's like, we got to figure this out, boys.
Oh, my gosh. He's breaking out the slide rule. Got us to the moon, boys. Got us to the moon.
I don't remember if this part is in the audio of what happens next, because they kind of go, does it? Do they talk about it in the audio?
He does talk about it in the near the very end, which is really exciting stuff. So yeah, here I'll jump back in it because we're getting really close. That's when he calls back. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So hang on a second. I'll throw this back up here. Hang on.
Another one just above, looks like the Coloma, and the other one is just off the coast of Benton Harbor. Wow, this is weird. Okay, now that one near South Haven has moved. It's moving further out in the Lake Michigan. I'm getting them up. Okay, it popped to one. Now I'm getting 4. No? Yeah, I got 4 for a while. Now I'm getting another one way down. I did for a little while. These are all up around about between 7,000 and 12,000 feet.
Oh, this is strange. This is really weird.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I don't know if it's some kind of energy or the radar is picking up something. I wish we had a picture of this, but
I'm gonna find out exactly where he sees them once. Union can you guys objects any south of Union?
So he's radioing in to the officer right now to say, like, is this what this guy's saying real?
For.
Hey, 10-4 there, little buddy.
My Benton Harbor, if it's up that high. This is really weird.
This is really weird, over.
Yeah, I was getting 4. Okay, now they've moved position again.
I can catch you one.
And I'm sweeping it back and forth in kind of like a triangle. then all of a sudden they'll pop up somewhere else. So it's instantaneously moving, and I'm getting about between 3 and 4 returns.
He's on the telegram again.
And they look like, sweeping in the vertical, they look like very strong spikes. I'm getting, it's really weird.
He's just so blown away. That's just really weird.
So I don't know if I'm, these are bigger than planes. Usually a plane will pick up as a little pinpoint, but these are about, on my radar scope, these are about the size of maybe, looks like a half centimeter across.
That's huge. I mean, that's a big
I'm
difference.
gonna try Grand Rapids once here too, and see if they've got anything that they're aware of once too.
Okay, they look like they're all moving toward the south, towards Chicago. There's 3 returns moving towards Chicago. They're about over center of Lake Michigan, 3 of them in a triangle, and they're about the real southern part of Lake Michigan, probably just off the coast of Berrien County.
Okay.
Just northeast of Chicago.
All right, I will give them a shot and see what I can locate from them.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep, bye-bye.
Phones are ringing off the hook, Jack. Oh, whoops.
Oh, okay. So there's like a last little clip part here where he's calling back to confirm that he isn't being punked. Even though the man has the radar showing this happen. He heard the dispatcher call the officer. Beyond the first officer, he radioed into another officer to say, hey, what are you seeing out there? Them lonely dark nights, cold on the western side of Michigan.
How come none of them are like, should we contact the Air Force? Like, this
well,
might
you know, that's
be
what the
bigger than
citizens.
us.
That's what the citizens were asking. I mean, we didn't get, unfortunately, a lot of those phone calls, and we're going to get into some of that a little bit later here. But the ones we did have in the beginning, you could hear the people asking, you know, so is something going on? Do we have an Air Force? Is there some kind of show or going on that we don't know about or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
But you can see with Jack, the radar operator here, even though he's seeing this, would we do this too? Would we deny what our own eyes and our senses seem to be telling us? I mean, he's not, even though he might feel like he's going, and he talked about it in a second here, he's very spooked. He's hearing that other people are seeing this and are experiencing this, and yet he just cannot believe what he's actually hearing and seeing.
Yeah.
Why is there an 8-ball in the Northern Lake? That's a great question. That mystery's for next week. So he had the each chart layered, and there's only one chart left, but I'm going to play, there's only like 2 minutes left here where he just calls back, and then he gives the report on what are we seeing here for a second. So we'll play this, and then promise that's it for the audio, guys.
I was calling to make sure that the person that called me was really a sheriff from Ottawa County and not a host.
He was one of our dispatchers.
Oh, okay. Calling about the...
Right, we've been chasing them all over down that way.
Pardon?
We've been chasing lights all over down that way.
So
I don't know why, but all I could think of when I heard that guy laugh and say we've been chasing lights all over down the way was, what's his name? Shit, Roscoe Pete Coltrane. Like, all I could think of was him from the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, from Dukes of Hazzard, yeah.
Roscoe Pete Coltrane.
We've been all over this county.
Yeah, all right, I'm going to let it play. I'm so sorry, guys. I keep interrupting.
what really is going on?
I still got a car out in the area.
Really? Can you hold on for a second?
Sure.
And this is again in the officers checking in. This officer's now checking in with his officer on the scene. And they wasn't on the phone.
Can I fill you in on the weather service at all, Jim?
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, okay.
Hello?
So, what were these things what do they look like?
I don't know. We got a report of something going through the air with lights on it horizontally. 3 to 4 lights going at a high rate of speed up and down and all over the sky. Now that we've had 5 or 6 calls,
Right?
and they've all been in the South Holland area.
South Holland?
Yep, from South Holland down to Overijssel, down in that area.
Overijssel?
Right.
Okay. And what color were the lights?
I
He sounds
didn't
really
know what color
scared.
they were.
What color were the lights?
Okay, yeah. Well, I did pick up. I picked up about 3 to 4 blips, and they were big. They weren't planes because planes usually show up like as a little pinpoint that move through the on the scope. But these were bigger. These were about the size of half a thumbnail on the scope, and they were up about between 5,000 and 12,000 feet, and they had real strong returns with them. And there were 3 of them. They bounce all over the place, but the general movement of all 3 of them were towards Chicago. I pretty much gave up looking at them when it reached just southern Lake Michigan, right towards as it was moving towards Chicago. Okay. So I did see something, and I've never seen anything like that before. I don't know, if it's some kind of an atmospheric phenomenon. I hear they have, I hear the Northern Lights is going on. I got a call from Manson saying that the Northern Lights are really dancing around, really bright.
Oh, really?
In a triangle?
Yeah, so, okay. Well, they're speeding. I think it seems to me like the last one instead of moving like to the southeast from Holland towards Allegan County. To the southeast. Okay. Southwest. I'm sorry. Southwest towards Chicago. Okay, that's talking about towards Chicago. Yeah, that's what I was seeing them actually move towards Chicago. Great. I wish we had a recording of what I could see. Yeah. Well, actually, there's some blips showing up on the computer part, and this is being recorded. So there is going to be a recording of this. So if they can, you might be able to see a movement on this if we can play this back. So. Okay. All right. Well, if we get any more, we'll let you know also. Okay. Let me. Yeah, please do. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So, yeah, I'll make sure, guys, we post the audio for that so you guys can listen uninterrupted from start to finish. But now Jack withheld a couple details, guys, in there because he was truthful on a few things, and he wasn't maybe quite as truthful on some other things. He said he'd given up tracking them. That is not true. He tracked these things for like 3 hours. 3 hours he tracked these. Matter of fact, he tried to get his wife to go outside. He called her, told her what was going on. He was like, go outside. She's like, I ain't going outside. He said, you do it. You do it. She said, I ain't doing it. So she didn't go outside. But the most amazing thing, besides the fact that he talked about 3 and 4, 5, 6 coming apart that people seen, Chad, I know it's so hard for us to see. I don't know if there's a way we can zoom in on that.
Nope.
Let's see if, I don't think there is a way we can zoom in on that cluster, is there?
No, this is a Netflix presentation. They won't even let you save
try.
But it does say the 3 large objects vanished. But after they vanished, there were several smaller objects off the coast of Lake Michigan. So these little guys right here.
I'm gonna try this, Chad. Hang on. I'm sorry, you keep reading them, but I'm gonna share my screen here. I think we can make it happen. Hang on.
I was gonna say, if you can't, I think I can. We'll see what happens.
Is that nice and zoomed in for you?
Yeah, that was quick.
Okay. So, go ahead, Chad. Keep reading. So this was the ninth and final frame that he drew. However, he tracked these for 2 hours. Tons. He said dozens and dozens of things coming together and separating. And at one point, this was one of the final radar clippings he had. Look at the amount of clusters here.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're kind of in a circle.
Wild. They really are, right? Like you see that middle one, and it's like,
yep.
It's just fascinating stuff that he had this on the radar, and he talked about that. As you heard at the very end with the officer saying, "Hey, you know what? They're not going to think I'm crazy because it's actually being recorded. I'll be able to show you guys." Or will we? So, yeah, Chad and chat. What do we think about this? I mean, what else could or could this not be? Let's try to eliminate some options. Weather balloons, northern lights, airplanes, drones. Just throwing stuff out there.
Just the fact that they were
flock of bats.
Flock of bats.
I don't know.
It's just the fact that it was like such a strong return, which means from what he said, it's like a very solid object. Weather would come through as like a more transparent, not as opaque thing on the map.
Yep.
Or on the radar. So these things were super solid. They were moving together at super high speeds.
Some would say very firm.
Firm and solid. So yeah, I mean, it's just, I got nothing. I think they were UFOs.
Chinese lanterns.
I think they
Never can forget about those. Birds with glow sticks. Hey, we're keeping all options on the table.
Birds are fake.
Temperature inversion. Dummy G. Possibility. I would like to read this a little bit. He tried to describe obviously what he was seeing. He tried to eliminate all explanations, as you guys heard. He was going through there at the actual audio. As he described it, the solid objects were seemingly coming together and coming apart, moving about 20 miles in each jump. They were hovering, then jumping, hovering, and jumping. It appeared to him as if the objects were forming a wide triangle spreading out over Lake Michigan. Still, despite everything he saw, Bushong waited over 2 decades to speak out, fearing that he might lose his job. He only spoke about it again after the U.S. government released a report confirming that the military pilots have indeed seen unidentified flying objects. Quote, "I guess I've been waiting for this vindication," unquote, Bushong said, which I didn't think I was going to get in at all in my life, unquote. But let's talk about that a little bit, Chad, because you watched the episode. What do you think was... I mean, that's not quite what happened, right? Because he gave the report, he transferred the information to the next gentleman coming in, who didn't seem nearly as intrigued by this. He was 2 weeks from retirement. I'm just kidding. I'm making that part up. I'm imagining. He was 2 weeks from retirement. He was like, I ain't got time for this. But he did try to explain it to the next guy coming in, who was like, cool.
Yeah, he did say, let's see here. At their highest, Bushong said the objects reached 60,000 feet and continued to move in odd patterns until they reached the south end of the Lake Michigan. There he observed about a dozen similar objects which were mostly stationary for 2 hours. The National Weather Service, he says, in quote, National Weather Service didn't want to become the UFO reporting center of the United States. So that's really why they had to duck and cover for this one.
And they flat out told him that. I mean, he said without them 100% saying it, it was basically, drop this, you got it wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what the newspaper clippings basically came out and said about it later was, oh my God, I should have wrote down what they called it. What did they call it? Ground clutter or something was the official term they ended up naming it. For as the reasoning is what he was seeing on the radar. I want to say it was called ground clutter or ground disturbance, something of that nature.
It is funny though that like every time a federal government agency gets involved with any of these, they just like the next couple days they just cover it all up. Like this is not what you guys thought it was.
Well, and he
in your homes
immediately was being harassed himself. I mean, like he came into work and he had they said between 40 and 50 paper UFOs that they'd hung up as a joke around his workspace. So I mean, he was instantaneously. Like he said, it was more so his boss and his boss's boss was like, hey, you're going to have to let this go. And specifically his direct boss who was like, you're going to have to probably get out of state of Michigan if you want to continue to work in the National Weather organization, which he did. He moved to, I think, Georgia, right? Atlanta, Georgia or something like that. I think it was Georgia. Yeah, he ended up moving to Georgia and finished his career for another, I think, 22 years. He ended up finishing out with the National Weather Forecast. And he didn't really speak out about everything and come out and even mention anything until he saw the videos of Commander Fravor and everything that happened there with the Nimitz event. So, but it always had been in the back of his head. He said he was obsessing over it. That's why he had all those written paperwork. He copied. He was smart enough to copy all that while he was still there because it's gone. They didn't have it. Even though you heard in the recording, he said it's being recorded, right?
Yep. He
said it's being recorded. You'll be able to look at this later. So clearly, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just found this part. It's this is from the unsolved.com website.
Oh, good one.
Right,
yeah.
The second to last paragraph. It says, in the days that follow the sightings back at the National Weather Service, Jack is pulled into his boss's office amid the flurry of the press. He's given strict instructions not to publicly speculate on what he saw through his radar that night. Jack must remain silent about the incident as long as he works for the National Weather Service. A few months later, Jack is transferred to Georgia's National Weather Service office.
Mm-hmm.
Jack's reputation as a scientist is dragged through the mud for decades, unable to formally elaborate on what he saw on March 8th or how he saw it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're like, you can go down to Georgia and just shut your big yapper.
Mm-hmm. And just a little bit more information he gave in one object he was talking about in particular, because what he ended up doing was meeting back up with the lady who was put in charge of it in regards to MUFON. Matter of fact, I have a photo of her. Let me get this pulled up. My goodness, I don't have anything ready. Actually, you might have the photo, Chad. Let's see
Which
if we
one?
have. Well, maybe you don't. Let me pull it up over here. I keep forgetting we had like more than one.
We've got 10 different slideshows here. We've got pictures saved.
And
we don't practice throughout the week, guys, just so you know. We just kind of...
I'm going to go in this way because it got, like, it kicked me off of there for some reason, and the photos are really bad. So we're going to get rid of this. But I'm going to show you a photo of the lady. She was put in charge of it, MUFON. So she went around and interviewed everybody in person. I think she said 20 to 30 really trusted eyewitnesses that she felt very comfortable with their story, that she personally interviewed going into it. And he ended up getting back in touch with her, and she said, I tried to get a hold of him several times, and I was told he is unavailable. He was not available for taking any comments or anything of that nature. I'm going to pull this up.
Chris is going to sleep. Good night, Chris. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Get some
Hope you
rest.
enjoyed
Yeah, we're going into the work week here.
the last week
I had
before
to
Christmas,
bring that
though.
up. I'm so sorry.
Oh, jeez. What do we got going on
Is
here,
it
guys?
shared right? What is going on?
Let's see.
It's too many things. That's not right.
Maybe it presented on a different screen.
It did.
Dang.
That's the one I wanted. Oh,
Come
well,
on, Canva.
we're going to do this. Here we go. Is it still showing it? Good enough.
Yes.
Okay. You guys ignore everything you're seeing. Oh, yeah. If you guys missed it, that's Muskegon, Michigan right there. It's
Aw,
downtown. It's very
Muskegon.
nice, Muskegon. Let's see. I know I got a photo right here. We're going to go through some of the stuff. That was an officer. That was Jack from back in the day. That was what he looked like. That was a handsome man he was at the time. He was working that radar right there. He was the coffee.
Hard
He
at
had
it.
the maps out. He was getting it. He was on the telegraph. Did I say telegraph? I meant to say telegram. What is going on with me tonight? Okay.
Huh?
It's like I'm trying to say the words, and they're like, just those words don't matter. Hang on. We're going to get back to these maps. All right, so here's some of what was going on in the some of the breakdown afterwards. Not a star, not a plane. And this actually went worldwide for a little bit. The likes of, oh my gosh, what was his name? The New Yorker from back in the day. He always had like the map, the cities behind him. Oh, gosh, you know his name. He had the glasses and the suspenders. Anyways, he was covering it, and many people covered the story. And obviously this was, what's her name? Her husband, Daryl, and their son, different ones that had seen. You know, basically it was just all over. So even though there was all this attention, the National Weather Service comes out and was like, yeah, it was ground to air clutter interference. I forget the technical term they used for it. Even though we had all these people saying, hey, you know, this right here even, this was printed. My God, what is this? 911 tapes offer UFO tail. Now, here's the deal. They kind of misconstrued that because, as you guys heard in the audio, right here, it was printed, oh my God, what is this? The radar operator shouted into the phone as he talked to the police in Holland. And you guys obviously know about all this. So they shared all this in the newspaper clipping, March 18th, 1994. And yet, it's amazing how we as human beings just let things go. If you're just given an answer, even if it's, well, it was ground to air disturbance or clutter, that somehow is easier to accept and move on with. I don't know. But this lady right here, she was put in charge. I'm not sure why it's got the screen cut out there a little bit. Of basically being able to go around and find the different witnesses. And she was the one who was on the phone with her friend going through this. But when they finally got together at the end, I think that was the end of it anyways, we're able to compare those notes on what she had gone around and interviewed those people back in the time saying, where were you? People he hadn't reached. And they all confirmed kind of basically the map pattern that he had laid out. In regards to what was going on that way. Now, one of the strangest things that happened, and don't worry, Enzo, I know you thought we might have forgotten about it, but I promise you we didn't. Chad, what did you think about the last part? We're going to share this last part of the story before we break this down and get out of here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What did we think about the couple that were camping on the coast of Chicago there, off the coast of Lake Michigan? I don't know if you've seen or heard that part of the story. Okay. So in that scene, pull this back up here, when they had this cluster right here.
Yeah.
Because what he noticed was some of these objects stopped and stayed. And they stayed there for like hour and a half before there was a shift change. And in that time of this going on, what he found out later on was that was the only part of Lake Michigan that was not frozen over at the time. I don't know if you've seen about that part, correct?
Yep.
And he thought it was odd that they sat there for so long, but what was even more peculiar is there was a couple supposedly camping. Supposedly, I don't know, March 8th and, getting near Chicago, it's cold times, but they were camping. The wife wakes up a little bit after midnight. She hears what she thought was like rustling of wind. And what she ends up noting is that there's essentially a reverse waterfall as high as the sky would go, they said. And at the time, Jack had them at the level of almost 6,000 feet. So this water was going 6,000 feet in the air. Supposedly, they were just pulling up the water. And there are countless accounts of people saying crafts just pulling water up. But I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit to the story. And then obviously they got their crap and got the heck out of there. They were like, we're not dealing with this, right? But yeah, they just said it was a bright light. They didn't quite say a craft, but there was this bright light that was pulling the water up into it, almost as a reverse. Essentially, it was like the very. It was like the very last story she shared when her and Jack were sitting together at the table. But yeah, what do you think about that, though? I guess that part of it, at least, or just the story as a whole. What are we thinking here? Scale, guys in the chat as well. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're sold, everything's real, they're here, they've always been here, they're interplanetary. I don't know what's going on.
I know what you were going for.
We're off the rails at that point.
This is this is what you were going for, or what you were just talking about earlier. I had to pull it up in the video.
Yes,
but,
yes.
So this is from the Netflix video, but it shows how they were right on the edge of where the water was frozen and not frozen. So they were over open water, and they were just hugging that edge.
And the couple seen them way down south, though. Like, they were along the shore. So, yes, even though that's where they hovered for a very long time, where, it was the only spot that wasn't frozen, but where they, supposedly that couple seen him was pretty far south of that location, because it was right off the beach.
Oh, yeah, and the radar, for sure, it was showing it way farther south.
Now, what do you guys think of the chat? Scale 1 to 10, 10 being the most, you're sold and everything we've told you about tonight or sharing this with you, or 1 being like you absolutely do not buy any single bit of this. Where do you guys think you're falling on this one? And then, Chad, where are you at with this, I guess? And then do you have any more you want to share? Any more information you think is pertinent to sharing to this case?
No, I think we covered everything that I had. I really think that it's just something that we can't explain. I just keep going back to the fact that, like, if you were to try to explain electricity to somebody back in, 100 years before electricity was even invented, if you just gave them a light bulb and was like, check this out, they'd have no, it would look like something from a different planet to them. And this might just be something that we're just not old enough to know what it is yet. It's probably something that's been here way longer than we have. And we don't know what it is yet. But, something that's showing up that large in a triangle formation, it stays in a formation and keeps moving around a map in the same formation. It's got to be something that we just don't know yet, I think.
Yeah. So we're getting, Tommy G is giving it a 10. Freaky Geek talked about a reverse waterfall might be something to see, but where did the water go? Enzo says the police chasing it and the radar return does give it a lot in capitalized, folks, of credibility to me. Not sure about the campers, and I agree with that one, Enzo. I give it a 9.
It's pretty good.
That's a hard number to get by an Enzo.
This camera
hard
is
number.
Trash.
Definitely an unknown. Agree with that. Yeah, this is where I fall on it. I give it a 10 with the fact that it happened, because think about this. 300 plus people called. I want to say, Chad, you might have to look this up. I want to say there's 82 counties in Michigan, 82 or 83. And of that, 42 or 44 counties reported seeing lights in the sky that night.
Yep,
Over
83.
half of Michigan. How many was it?
83.
83. And I want to say 42 counties or 43, 44, something like that.
That sounds right, 42.
So half of the counties, a little over half the counties in Michigan, seen stuff that night. So it wasn't just, because people weren't just calling the police. Think about that. You had 100 people call the police. Well, actually, over 300 people seeing it. 100 actually felt compelled enough to call the police. And this is in 94. Now, maybe now we would, but like, guys, I don't know. Even if I see something really crazy, I don't know if I'd just up and call the police. It'd probably take me a lot for me to call the police over a strange light in the sky because it's going to be so hard to prove. At least nowadays we have a camera. But even then, if I take a video of it, it's not going to be representative of what I'm really seeing in that moment.
Right.
But 100 people felt compelled enough to call within an hour. 300 total. So how many people didn't call?
Yeah,
right?
and that was pointed out at the beginning of the show that we had in the chat room. I think it was Enzo or somebody said that was just the number of people that we know of that called. So, like you said, there's probably a lot of other people that saw that night.
Yeah.
And just like Tommy G said, Tommy G's ex said that she saw him.
Yeah. And, for me, I think one of the things that Jack said, and he thinks he'll spend the rest of his life trying to figure this out a little bit, even though he didn't want to be known as a kook and all that stuff, really, it was up until 2010. Commander Fravor was the first big break, right, with the Joe Rogan show, where he came out and finally started talking about this, where people took it a little mainstream.
Yep.
Took it a little bit more serious, where you weren't maybe the crazy person for talking about it. So really, guys, we're just barely a decade into being able to openly talk about it, where it's like, okay, you're not completely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So to have everybody that still came forward and give their statements and give their story, like the one lady flat out said, the one that was with her husband Daryl there, like she said when they asked her in the show, I seen a UFO. She didn't sugarcoat. She was like, best thing that ever happened in her life was having her kids and seeing the UFO with her kids. So to me, I think it definitely most certainly happened. He feels it was a rendezvous point. What do you think about that? Because of the amount he was seeing. That's why he was so freaked out. He legitimately thought we were being invaded. Because he's seeing dozens of these things.
That's why I was wondering, like, when you're seeing something like this, aren't you supposed to, there's no protocol? Like, if you see something half the size of a county flying over Michigan, you should probably contact the Air Force, because we're not sure if it's Russia. But there was nothing like that going on. It was just like, wow, these are weird. Oh, wow, I see them still. They're strange. Wow, they're weird. It's like there's no, like, alarm bells going off. It was just kind of like they were just, like, amazed by what they were seeing. It's weird. That's the other part of the story. Was there a military response? Yeah, that's the thing, is I never heard of any military response after this.
Well, not exactly, because it kind of got wiped under the table at this point, as basically just being, hey, this doesn't matter. Hey, Chad, give me just one second. I apologize. Give me just 1 second, okay?
No problem.
I'll be right back.
No problem. Oh, you get me all by yourself. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat room. Let's see. The Jinn are tricksters at times, for your information. Yeah, that is true. So let's see. I'm going to go back to this one thing. I need to make sure that you guys have the link for I'm sure you guys all know how to get on the show on Netflix. It's called the Unsolved Mysteries. Just so you know, that is back. So this is like a new season 3 of the Unsolved Mysteries. If you just go to Netflix and search for Unsolved Mysteries, make sure to check out the 3rd season. I believe it's episode 2 that we're covering. And now back to Big Willie.
Yeah. Had a little one out there, little crotch goblin.
I heard that was
Some
cute.
people get offended by that. Yeah. Dad? He was like, came out, he's like all in the dark. He's like, Mom's not in bed. Because it's all dark in her room. She was afraid to go in there. I was like, I promise she's in there. Just go. I was like, I'll be in there in just a minute, buddy. Promise.
Mom's not in bed. I'm not sure where she's at. We should probably do a
start messing
full shutdown, lockdown.
Get the guns.
Get the guns out, Dad. Can't find Mom.
Doing a sweep. Oh, man. Yeah, I had a friend the other day. We were talking about this, and they were friended by crotch goblins. I was like, well, once you've had kids, you can decide which you're allowed to call them.
Oh, my God.
Just kidding. I heard another friend, I think they're actually watching right now, they said that they call them womb fruit. And I was like, ooh, that is one I have not heard before, and that's kind of funny.
Fruit of the womb?
Yeah. Ooh. Funny enough, that same friend is actually moving to Muskegon and said they knew nothing about all this, and now they're like, oh my God, that's where I'm moving and I have a fear of aliens. Well, this is a long time
You're the
ago.
wrong person to know if they have a fear of aliens.
I know, right?
Because I'm not saying it was aliens, but no, it was aliens.
Yeah, so my final notes on this one is literally the best. It is not more, I would say this. It is not, there were not more people as far as visual sightings than the Phoenix Lights. However, it was tracked on the radar better than the Phoenix Lights incident. So,
Yeah, definitely.
at least in regards to what was made public. And that's the weird thing to me is, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, what is the military supposed to do? As much as we might put it on them, like, what are they supposed to do?
Well,
Like, if they're given
at
all
the
that
very
information.
At the very least, we have the A-10 Warthog stationed in Detroit, so I figured that they'd at least be like,
Fire
how
that
about we get a
boy.
couple, let's get a couple jets up there and just see what we got going on. You know, at least we can fly over there and get some planes in the air and see what it is from a 10,000 feet in the air perspective instead of just a radar and some people on the ground. But that was never happened, apparently.
Well, to be fair, another investigator, actually the person who broke the story, I forget this gentleman's name, who broke it in Michigan, he talked to 2 airline pilots personally who were flying from Chicago into the metro. Separate airlines, obviously for reasons being because as a pilot, if you mention the word alien or crafts or UFOs, any of that, your career is probably going to be in jeopardy. But he said that in both those cases, they, I don't know what's going on with the lighting tonight. It's wild. So in both those cases, they did see crafts. They did see the lights, but they wanted their names withheld as well as the company that they worked for. So we do know that we had at least according to this reporter, 2 pilots who've seen it. But like you're saying, Chad, it would have been nice. But again, would we seen that? Probably not.
No, and you know, who was it? Tommy G, I think. Yeah, Tommy G said surely NORAD would have that on radar. And so that's the thing is, like, we're just dealing with basically civilians at this point. You know, the police officer, the radar, and the radar technician. I mean, they're kind of civilian as far as this kind of stuff goes, but NORAD probably does have all this stuff. They were probably tracking it at the same time. It's just like they're not going to be answering the phone and talking to people that we would have access to probably.
Yeah, I agree. Either way, I got to give this a 10 as it happened. I still think, again, man, the Lake Michigan Triangle, this is right where that all took place. This is that same area.
Yep.
I really do wonder what's in that lake, man. The amount of stuff that's just disappeared and reappeared. I mean, again, if you guys haven't seen that, go back to our very first episode we did with Stephen Kubacki, just up and disappearing.
Oh, yeah.
Go check it out. We briefly mentioned the countless ships that have just up and disappeared, as well as people, and then maybe reappeared. It's just, I don't know. Something about large bodies of fresh water. Oh, we didn't really cover that. The scientific side of things, which is not my forte. But what I heard somebody mention this on, I believe it was in Reddit. I was like, that's a good point, actually. They were talking about hydrogen-based engines or hydrogen-based propulsion. You would need water, fresh water specifically, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, I don't know what the compounds are that you would need or that would cause that to burn. Isn't it like table salt and...
Oh, boy, you're...
something? Hey, Enzo.
Hey, Enzo, what do you say about that, bud? He
Isn't
did
it like
say
it's
that.
table salt, and
What, to convert
ice? It's like
water
ice,
to...
table salt, and something. It will burn. It will burn really hot. God, guys, it's been so long since
To extract the hydrogen out of...
No, it's combustible. It'll burn really hot, like super hot. I could be making this all up.
We'll
But I
have to
feel
go to
like we
Enzo
learned
for
about
that
this
one.
in high school. We'll let Enzo type some stuff up. Hang on. Ronnie says it could be chili peppers. I agree.
Enzo's like, what am I supposed to... Let me just...
It's something to do with like hydrogen, ice, and water. I thought you can make it like really, like it burns at a high rate and it's combustible. Second Star
Hydrogen, ice,
Survival
water.
said it could
Saucy.
be the man bear pig.
Oh boy, now we're going down some.
I would like
to talk to you. Tell about
man, baby.
South Park. Why do I know that?
But yeah, that is in a nutshell kind of the 1994 event. I just wanted to add that last little bit in case Chad had some ideas about what could be really going on.
I have no idea what could be going on, man.
Rodney, it is 100% another true story I made up. It's facts.
It's a totally true story that he just made up in his head.
Yep.
So I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, I ended up in Posky's Discord the other night on accident. It was hilarious. I joined his Discord and
I'm sorry.
I accidentally, he has it set to like the old school way, so when you join, you're automatically in a conversation if it's an open room. And it's like 3 a.m. at my brother's, and all of a sudden I hear, William? What are you doing in here, big Willie? And I have my volume turned all the way down, so I can't stop it. And then my wife starts yelling because she's like hearing Posky talking. She's like, get out the phone. It was the funniest thing ever. I couldn't figure out which room I was in. I was like, what room am I in? I can't shut it down. Okay, what is Enzo saying here?
I'm not familiar with burning ice, but simple electrical current applied to water will separate the hydrogen and oxygen atoms. Whoa, I didn't know that.
Okay, so does that mean then that they could be using water as a propulsion system? I mean, is that possible? Like a refueling, like rendezvous
And that's why we
point?
keep seeing all these UFO sightings around water. I mean, Chris Bledsoe sees orbs hovering above his pond all the time. There's been multiple UFO sightings across other lakes in Michigan. There's UFOs. There's actually black triangles seen a lot over by Lake Erie near Detroit. There also happens to be a nuclear power plant over there, the Fermi nuclear power plant. So there's a lot of sightings that have to do with fresh water and with actually salt water too. There's a lot of sightings on the Pacific coast. So yeah, I don't know. There has to be something to do with water and maybe even nuclear energy. I didn't look to see if there's any nuclear plants on the west side of the state.
It's got to be something, I would guess, it would be built by the water so that you could just use the cooling towers to continue to run the water down the coils to cool it. Mm-hmm. And it's essentially usually how every nuclear meltdown there's ever been, it's always been because the pipe fitters, and not their fault necessarily, but it's been the cooling systems that failed that caused the meltdowns, because nuclear fusion itself is terrifying, but it's not as dangerous as people would say when stable. Like anything, right? I guess.
Yeah.
Like anything. Motorcycles, crotch rockets are super safe as long as you keep them in the garage. Yeah.
I don't see anything over on the west side of the state as far as nuclear power. It's all on the east coast. There's a nuke plant.
That's because we settled that side of the state first, or no? Okay, so it says, so I was really confused in this. I was like, I feel like I'd heard about this before. So there is an article that talks about why burning hydrogen and ice is an awful idea. But I guess it gets extremely hot, and there are big problems with it, so it wouldn't be it's extremely wasteful and insufficient, it says. So, but it can burn extremely hot in short periods of time. So that really wouldn't be doing anything.
Billy said, I've seen someone use a spark plug wire to run a motor on water. He had to start it with something else, but it would run for a while, but not continuous. Interesting. We'll have to have Sunsaber come up and tell us about it.
Great point, Enzo, about the Stonehenge location, because that is, hang on here, because I had that article just when we did our Kiyosaki one. Pull that one up.
But the who? Which one?
Remember in Lake Michigan, there's the underground Stonehenge?
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
The underwater Michigan Stonehenge.
Yeah. Because for a while they were trying to say it was like, oh, it's so hard to find, but it's like, no, there's an actual place where it's at. Yeah.
Ooh, Cassie's sitting in the living room with just 3 lights on. Oh, with the tree lights on. Bet that's cool.
Oh, that's always a nice look.
Yep. No Christmas tree here. I'm not too festive.
Let's see. Man, I really thought it was going to give me the exact location. I could. It's crossing the Alpena and Amberley Ridge. So it is. I like how they literally pulled up a map for a hunting guide versus just like, give me the map location.
Where did they say it was?
It was saying a crossing at Alpena and Amberley Ridge. But that doesn't seem right. I feel like
Alpena.
I feel like I had the exact location before because I was going to look that up for this one and I forgot to. But yeah, I mean, there's a chance. I mean, as far as I know, it is on that western side of Michigan and the upper part there. So it might have been where it started.
That's weird. Alpena's on the East Coast.
Well, then that's not right then. That's wrong. Maybe that was just literally a hunting guy. Because that was talking about those moose. The moose up there that we have on the, what's that island where we dropped those wolves? We literally parachuted in the wolves to kill the moose. Do you remember that story?
No.
We dropped 4 wolves in on parachutes, bro, to take out the moose population because they were going to kill themselves.
Sakes.
This is facts. There are wild moose and wolves in Michigan on this island. And you can go stay there. You have to get either a ferry or a plane to take you out. No, I'm sorry.
There's so many islands.
There are a lot of islands, but this one's big. There's only 2 ports on it. Real big.
Man, I don't know. That doesn't sound.
Wow, forensic mistakes. Oh my. This is not the Smutcast episode here. All right, so let's see what Enzo's saying, then we'll guess we'll wrap this up. No, I didn't make that up, Jake Smith, I promise. Another reason all the UFOs were around where the ice was open could have been they had to travel under the ice to an open area if they had an underwater base in the lake. And a lot of people have talked about this. There's a lot of reports. Obviously, we're focusing on Michigan stuff. But man, guys, I would love to talk about all the reports from Wisconsin there, as well as the O'Hara incident. I mean, that... Ooh, Chad, what year did the O'Hara incident happen? The UFOs over O'Hara? Because that would be that same location. But yeah, there's a lot of people who've argued that they think there could be some sort of underwater base in Lake Michigan.
I think that wasn't the Chicago one. Wasn't that long ago. I want to say 2006 or something. I think we looked that up earlier.
But yeah,
that was Isle Royale.
Isle Royale. That's where they dropped the wolves, right? But they really did do that. They parachuted them in, Rambo style, with a Bowie knife in his mouth. And he's like, I'm here to eat some moose.
I'm here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum.
Look at them. And now these 4 dogs, they went from 4, have populated. And they've been able to keep the moose population was so bad, guys. They were eating all the food out there. They were going to starve to death because there were so many of them. Aww. They were like, they're going to wipe themselves out. So they had no natural predator. The only natural predator they have is the gray wolf, I believe. Is that what they dropped in? Or whatever type it was.
Wow.
And they had to drop these wolves in like 2014, 12 or 14, whatever it was. And I believe there's like 40 or 50 wild wolves now or something like that up there running around.
The moose population has ranged from 500 to 2,500, while the number of wolves has ranged from almost 50 down to 2. From 2018 to 19 wolves were released at Isle Royale in hopes of bringing stability to the ecosystem. And as of 2020, there are an estimated to be 14 wolves remaining on the island.
Some of them have been taken out. It's a hard life. Imagine being trained all your life as a wolf, like you're going to Isle Royale. Or what was it? The Isle Royale?
Isle Royale.
The Isle Royale.
That picture I just showed you.
James Bond.
Guess what year that picture was that I just showed you?
94?
66.
Was it really?
Same year as the other UFOs.
Because I was wondering, I was like, why is there so many wolves? Because at one point they went down to 2. That's when they dropped the other wolves in there to help repopulate.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's a scary sight right there. That moose.
Could you imagine being a wolf?
This sucks.
Exactly. Could you imagine being the moose, though? They're like, we finally got rid of those wolves. We wiped them out. We killed them off. And then from the sky, like us invading the Germans in World War II, there's just air on.
Yep.
The wolves. Well, no, the wolves would be howling. You know, they're coming in. That's how they do it. They do it at night raid, too. Full moons.
Mm-hmm.
I could just see it now. Makes my blood pump.
Ben says, I'm digging this channel. Good stuff. I don't know how you're able to go live this often. I would get caught farting or picking my nose like a silly human. Great job, bro, for real. Awesome. Thanks, man, for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks. Lighting was rough tonight. We didn't quite have our slideshows in order, but hey, we shared the story, and that was the important part. And Chad, yep. I did send you those links, so hopefully you're able to add those to the show notes so people want to read the links themselves, or that audio fully free that you can find on YouTube and listen to it continuously through. You'll be all set that way. Tommy G said they dropped those wolves in body armor.
I will definitely add those in. They won't be in immediately following the show, but give me like 10 minutes after.
Right. But I'm saying if you're listening to this back. And guys, we've already had, obviously, Cassie and some other ones reach out to us and tell us, stories they'd like to hear us cover or some things they've suggested. So if you have something you want us to cover, please let us know. Get a hold of Chad. Chad, I don't know if you prefer your Messenger or email, or how do you like to
If you have me on Messenger, that'll work. Otherwise, chadsmithpodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. Let us know. And then I think at some point, too, maybe every, fourth episode or something, we'll mix in, a story that's not from Michigan, maybe located, the tri-state areas. Because these stories, when we shared that 1966 incident, there was an incident in Ohio where officers chased a UFO for over 100. They went into another state. They left jurisdiction. They were in Pennsylvania at this point. They said, son of a gun, we ain't stopping.
It's like
that happened during 66.
Wow. It's like the Smokey and the Bandit of UFO sightings.
Oh, 100%. It was wild stuff. And then the final answer, weather balloon.
Yeah.
Going 110 miles an hour, weather balloon, that is.
Was the fastest weather
3
balloon.
3 states across.
Ripley's Believe It or Not. You wouldn't believe it.
That's right. Well, I don't think I have any more to add to this other than, guys, as I usually always say, and I'll just say it now and let Chad wrap up here. I always ask people, I encourage you to please stay curious and keep it weird, because we live in a mysterious, strange world, and reality is not really what we think it is. I think it is so much more fascinating. And we shouldn't be scared about that. We should welcome that. And we should say, what is the unknown? And then dive in.
I can't follow that up, but thank you everybody for being here, and we'll see you on Tuesday for another episode of the Chad Smith Podcast. We're gonna have Evan D on, so hang out with us on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. Thanks so much, Big Willie, for hanging out.
Yeah,
this was fun.
Peace, love, and taco grease.